Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. Oh, the drama. Okay, I thought I'd dedicate a full video to this because, so many people are losing their crap out there about the Ledger wallets and are they compromised? And, so many people are giving their opinions on Twitter. We're going to get down to it, guys. There's a lot to unpack just in this one topic. And, it was coming out at the same time that we got that decision. James K. Filan dropped a tweet yesterday about the judge's decision to deny the SEC's motion to seal the Hinman documents. And I did a full video on that this morning. If you guys didn't catch that, I will link that up here in the top right-hand corner. So that was kind of the big news this morning. But at the same time on Twitter, this came out and, it was just mayhem out there. Ledger is under fire for a new account recovery feature that critics are calling a backdoor into its hardware wallets. So here, this coming from Bankless here, what is happening? They give their opinion. I'm going to go through a few different opinions here. And, full disclosure on this channel, I have said to you guys, you can use my affiliate link to get a Ledger Nano wallet. I do have it in the description of the video. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, Working Money Channel, how could you do this to us? Well, guys, hang on. It's not all bad. And I want you guys to sit back and take a listen of some other opinions here. So full disclosure, I'm still standing by the Ledger Nano. And the reason, well, we'll get into that as we go on. So Bankless here posting this. Yesterday, Ledger launched its recovery subscription service. Okay, so first off, this is a service that you can subscribe to that lets users back up their private keys so that they can be recovered if lost. Recovery splits up keys into 3 encrypted shards sent from the device to be held separately by 3 custodians, including Ledger. So the nuts and the bolts of it, you can, if you so choose, subscribe to this recovery service. You do not have to subscribe to this recovery service. It is in this firmware update 2.2.1. Again, guys, if you update to this firmware without wanting to subscribe to the service, you can still do that. Users who thought it was impossible for private keys to ever leave their existing Ledger devices aren't happy at all. Does Recover's launch mean the hardware was always a firmware update away from sharing keys? Could the government force their hands? Well, these are all interesting questions. The government in that whole piece of it, that is a whole other side to the story. Let's just focus on Ledger for a second. We'll get into more of this. Ledger has previously said this isn't the case, but users are being left with a lot of new questions after Recover's launch, where it's clear private keys can indeed leave the device now, albeit in sharded encrypted form. So why is Ledger doing this? Ledger has raised over $575 million from investors. They want more users, and existing private key management isn't accessible for everyone. But will Recover's launch on previously released devices alienate their existing user base? So even this article here is saying that, you're not necessarily vulnerable if you do upgrade to the new firmware. And, they're just saying there is a backdoor here. But, is this going to really alienate the old school crypto guys that are, pro privacy, pro anonymity? And, to a degree, I'm like that. What I think is happening here is that Ledger is doing this because they realize so many people, first of all, may have had crypto on their devices, and they lost their keys, and then therefore they lost all their crypto. So then these guys call Ledger support and complain that they can't get their crypto off. So I bet you, and this is why I've said on this channel a million times that, keep your cryptocurrency safe. You need your private keys to access that cryptocurrency. If you do not have your private keys, you are stuffed. So keep them in 2 different places, 3 different places, in different locations, maybe not even in the same building, okay? But I think this was a response to people like that. Ledger has been on the defensive today over the security of their products. They'll have a tough time satisfying critics who argue that the inability of private keys to leave the device in any fashion is what makes a hardware wallet in the first place. We're in talks with the Ledger CTO to join us on the show. What questions would we have for them? If you found this helpful, please follow Bankless HQ. So essentially that is Bankless giving I think a fair and balanced assessment of, the questions that some people are probably asking. So we got to put into perspective, okay, Ledger is probably also doing this because of the pressures. And we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but because of the pressures that are going on around the world with regards to identification and cryptocurrency. Now, again, you have the choice. At least they're giving you the choice to opt into this service if you're the kind of person that's like, probably will lose my keys at some point. So, let's play it safe. Okay, so here we have it. European Union passes law requiring identification for all crypto transactions. Now, if we're thinking about this, guys, we've got to think about it in realistic terms. If the European Union wants every crypto transaction to be identifiable, well, these companies have to adapt and adapt somehow. At this point, Ledger is offering a service to opt into. You do not have to do this at this point in time so that you can retrieve your private keys. Let's say at some point, let's say that governments around the world saying, nope, private wallets are, can no longer be, private. And, any company that does this, we're going to sue and the CEO is going to go to jail. And, let's just put that into perspective here for a second. Well, these companies have to adapt somehow, and maybe guys at the top at Ledger are having discussions with members of government from different countries and saying, okay, well, guys, this is the way we're pushing this, so you might want to adapt if you want your business model to still be sound. So the European Union's Markets on Crypto Asset, or the MiCA regulation, has received final approval from Council, the landmark legislation, which was aimed at unifying cryptocurrency across the EU, and that was delayed. The significant MiCA proposal aims to harmonize all cryptocurrency laws among the 27 EU member states. Now, according to the latest report, the European Union waved the green flag on Tuesday, which was signed off by the finance ministers. Additionally, a new law will require identification for all crypto transactions across the 27 EU nations. So this is what's happening. I mean, whether you agree with it or not, whether Ledger agrees with it or not, this is fact. Okay? So, it could be that. And again, I don't know, but it could be that these guys are preparing themselves for what is inevitably going to come down the pipe. And again, guys, an opt-in feature. This is not saying that, your cryptocurrency is unsafe. This is not saying you even have to opt in. This is your choice. And that's what it's all about. Also, guys, let's not forget, there are many big banks now vying to be the major providers of crypto custody, not just in Europe, not just in the US, but around the world. Michael Branch also bringing this to our attention with regards to BNY Mellon. Now, BNY Mellon's a unique one because they have deep ties to Ripple and XRP. I've done a few videos on this over the years, and I'll link one up here in the top right-hand corner if you guys are interested. So they're committing long-term to digital asset initiatives. BNY Mellon, America's oldest bank, is not shying away from digital innovation, rolling out initiatives for digital assets that extend beyond today's cryptocurrencies. The bank ventured into the Bitcoin market in 2021. That was a significant milestone. BNY Mellon declared its intention to securely manage, transfer, and facilitate the issuance of Bitcoin and other cryptos for its esteemed asset management clientele. So BNY Mellon, guys, just another one of these companies like JP Morgan, there's so many now. The NASDAQ, we just got news that the NASDAQ wants to get into crypto custody by the end of June. In a recent interview, Roman Riggleman, chief executive at BNY Mellon's asset servicing and digital businesses, discussed the bank's commitment to advanced initiatives centered around distributed ledger technology, tokenization, and digital cash. That's not to say cryptocurrencies hold the highest priority. However, they are certainly looking at it, and they realize that it is going to be part of the future of finance. Even here, they're saying, everything so far has been exceptionally slow. Progress has been exceptionally slow. Of course, that has a lot to do with the crypto regulatory clarity, or the lack thereof, because of the nonsense that we're going through. The nonsense that the SEC is trying to spit fire at the crypto industry. An October 2022 study sponsored by BNY Mellon notes that an impressive 91% of institutional investors express interest in investing in tokenized assets. So 91%, guys, that is basically everybody. Okay? These guys know that this asset class is going to be huge. And so, this is why we're seeing, we've talked about it. I don't have to say this again and again and again. This is why we talk about this on this channel. This is why we follow what government is doing. This is why we're very interested in the SEC's actions and how they're, deciding to move about in the crypto space, because of these big players. So again, fighting against, big bank custody, laws that are currently occurring, like in the EU, we got to think of how Ledger is handling this and why they're doing what they're doing. So, now we're getting a lot of FUD on, I personally believe it's FUD. Looks like Ledger is the main character of crypto Twitter today. This coming from Not So Fast. Do not under any circumstances enable their social key sharing. So even this is saying, it's not that you're going to lose your crypto or that your crypto has been compromised, but just don't enable this social key sharing option. It's not immediately urgent, but very important that you migrate high value and or cold funds away from Ledger permanently. So this is an ideological fuddy statement. And it's your decision. If you want to do that, do it. If you don't want to do that, don't do it. I'm just giving you guys, information here from what I found based on what people have been posting and based on sound logic. Fubar here saying stop using Ledger hardware wallets, migrate away from them immediately. They've shown nothing but gross incompetence and wild misunderstanding of their own purpose, and now they've publicly admitted to intentionally backdooring their own proprietary hardware. Stop using Ledger. So it continues here. This was from Ledger on a Reddit thread. An official answer from Ledger would be very much appreciated. Is there a backdoor? Yes or no? The device sends encrypted shards of your seed to different companies. So if you decide to use the service, you can, of course, still choose to back it up yourself, trusting the proprietary secure element to do its part of a single thread that held this company together, and now it has been severed. So just talking about that whole thing down here about separating it into three encrypted shards so that you can take your seed phrase elsewhere. Other than that, Fubar here down here saying it's opt-in. You don't have to use it. He's quoting that. This is a misdirection, he says. A hardware wallet should have a secure enclave where the private keys never leaves the device. Under any circumstances, they've opened APIs for the enclave to send encrypted key shards to third parties on the internet. Reminder, Ledger previously had a data breach leak of customer lists and names. Ledger is encouraging customers to wear hardware wallets as public jewelry. Ledger can always leak private keys from an enclave with further firmware updates. I've seen better practices from both Trezor and Grid Plus. Past performances does not guarantee a future results, but they're on my short list of Ledger replacements. So that's interesting that he says this, past performance, not a guarantee of future results. I have a feeling that, considering Ledger is one of the biggest companies, they are in the know. They do have a thumb on the pulse of what is happening, for example, with regards to the MiCA regulations in Europe. They realize, of course, I'm sure they've got connections to big banks, at least executives who run these things. So they know where the regulation is going. Again, guys, it's opt-in. I think this is very alarmist, to be honest with you, and for many reasons. Even David Schwartz is saying here's an explanation of what we all understood until recently was Ledger's security model and value proposition. So David Schwartz even taking a bit of a negative approach to this. I got a replacement Ledger recently. I entered one set of keywords, and then I got access to all my crypto. I always wondered how I could do this with only one set of words rather than one per token. Is there a reason for this? David Schwartz just responding to that. No, that's because the device securely derives families of secrets from a single master key. So just explaining kind of the nuts and bolts to it. If you guys are interested in that, I will link this tweet thread in the description of the video as well. Okay, Ledger did finally come out, though, and give us their explanation to this. Okay, exciting update. Ledger has a new product, Ledger Recover, so it is a brand new product that's launching soon. Here's what Ledger Recover is and what it isn't, explained by the CEO himself, Charles Grumet, or rather the CTO at Ledger. Okay, and there is a thread below, just, a lot of this thread is quoting the video here. So guys, listen to this.
Hello, I'm Charles Grumet, CTO at Ledger. I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce a new service. Ledger Recover is an optional subscription for users who want a backup of their secret recovery phrase so they can restore access to their wallets whenever, wherever, even if they have lost or broken their Ledger NANO and don't have their recovery sheet with them. For some people, it's a very convenient service, but some others simply don't need it. You can continue managing your secret recovery phrase all by yourself if that's why you bought a Ledger at the first place. This is not automatically enabled by any firmware updates. This is your choice. Self-custody is at the core of our offering, and your secret recovery phrase is created on your device. We have no access to it. This will never change. We are uncompromising about security, and that will never change. If you choose to subscribe, Ledger Recover encrypts your secret recovery phrase and splits it into 3 fragments. All of this happens inside the secure element chip, so your private key is never at risk. These encrypted fragments are stored by 3 different parties on hardware security modules. In this process, Ledger and our trusted providers have no access to your secret recovery phrase. There's no backdoor for anyone, neither us, a provider, or even a very gifted hacker to access it. Individually, these encrypted fragments are completely useless. When you want to restore your keys, 2 of these 3 parties will send back their fragments to your Ledger device, which will be able to recombine your secret recovery phrase and allow you to access back your wallet. Decryption can only happen on the Ledger secure element chip after identity verification. The split, encryption, or decryption happens on your Ledger device and does not involve any other party than you. Nobody within Ledger or outside Ledger ever has access to it. Self-custody remains and will always be the core principle of Ledger. The ethos of self-custody is that it's your choice. You can choose to manage all your assets completely by yourself, or you can have a backup with Ledger Recover. It's up to you.
It's up to you. And that's how it should be, at least in my opinion. I mean, these guys are trying to do the best for their customers. I truly believe this. If it were an option where they just kind of did it and didn't tell us, and, there was a back door and our seed phrases were vulnerable, well, then I would have a big problem with this. But guys, this is not the case. Even Hasib here on Twitter posting this. Yesterday, I freaked out about the revelation that Ledger could spit out your private keys with a firmware update. Yet, I noticed the smartest people were not freaking out. So guys, listen to this. Was I missing something? I spent the evening educating myself, and now I'm in the never mind, it's fine camp. And this is why. This was my initial mental model. I thought Ledger's secure element was like Apple's security enclave, a box that a private key lives in, which can only sign things. The key can never leave the device. So that's not the case. Firmware can exfiltrate the private key. Oh God, this take is nonsensical. This can't be how it works because Ledger's upgrades. Many people's instincts are, wait, why even? I don't want my hardware wallet to ever upgrade. But Ledger, guys, upgrades these wallets to support evolving blockchains. So you always have to upgrade the wallets because blockchains are always upgrading. And so, this is why you have to, right? This is why you sometimes just don't have a choice. Ethereum now requires BLS signatures. Then there's Solana, Near, Aptos. All the new stuff. They have new signing algorithms, new key derivatives, all sorts of fanciness aside from Bitcoin. Every single blockchain evolves. That's kind of funny. If a ledger were an unupgradable box with a private key inside, then it would need every algorithm that every blockchain will ever use already available inside the box. And if it didn't think to include a newer algorithm, you would have to throw it away and buy a newer model. Consumers will not sign up for that, so they accept a compromise. Okay, think of that for a second, right? If every time a blockchain upgraded, you would have to throw out your ledger and buy a new one, would you really be happy? Would you really be happy if that were the case? The box can take a new code that touches the private keys if the user approves it, but only code that was signed by Ledger Co. Their sign-off is how they keep you from getting owned by malicious apps and phishing. Every Ledger app for any blockchain you run can in principle extract the private keys on your device. Of course it can, because Ledger apps often have to derive a key for another blockchain which originates from the master secret on the device. There is no way around this. So yes, you're trusting Ledger to a degree, although you only need to trust them once since you never are forced to upgrade firmware. This is always true. Either you throw away your device every time a new blockchain ships, or you embrace this trusted model, but you cannot have both. The important point is this, guys. Every major hardware wallet works this way. That said, Ledger did some terrible corporate comms and freaked everybody out. Okay, so maybe they're guilty of that. But the more I reflect on this, the main reason was people don't understand how hardware wallets actually work, myself included. People want hardware wallets to be ASIC ASICs, but they're actually FPGAs. I don't know what that is, and consumers have chosen that. That said, maybe there will now be a market for an ASIC hardware wallet. It's easier now that the landscape of blockchains has settled down a bit compared to 5 years ago. So Ledger is fine regardless of model. Choose your hardware wallet provider on the merits. Also a shout out, and then he gives a shout out here to somebody who did contribute to this train of thought. Romoylanen here posting this. So in theory, they can just pull our seeds and keys if they want. New update and skipped opt-in. So basically, we just trust them like we trust banks and government. Little facetious here, Hasib saying, I believe the hardware itself makes the user approve the firmware update. That portion is hardwired in. That said, the code of the update is obviously inscrutable. But if you don't trust Ledger at all, you probably shouldn't own their hardware product in the first place. And guys, I've always thought this, and I've always said to you, I do trust Ledger because they've always been there. I've been using them since the beginning, 2017. They've always been solid. I did have a time when my hardware wallet just stopped working, and they shipped me a new one for free. So you got to rely on a company's merits. Also, I think there are a lot of good explanations here as to why people shouldn't be freaking out as much as people are freaking out. Just don't opt in. If you do not want the service, do not opt in. A lot of fake news here going on about Ledger. This coming from Ripple Van Winkle here on Twitter. Ledger devices are 100% safe. If you do not want to use the Ledger recovery service for $9.99 a month, then don't use it. Your keys are your keys until you give them out. I could not agree more. That has always been the case. But that's just my opinion. I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.